But our colleagues on 3 News were doing a story on Mr Crimp because he's been a major donor to the ACT party. And when their reporter interviewed Mr Crimp, what he said was so bizarre that it simply couldn't be condensed into a news story. So here he is, Louis Crimp with Jane Luscombe.
The Rugby World Cup opening ceremony, watched and admired around the world, but not by wealthy Invercargill businessman Louis Crimp.
Yeah, well, I think it was embarrassing them doing those things. They're not real New Zealanders.
I think a lot of New Zealanders are very proud of that.
So the only thing in the Maori culture that is worthwhile and proud of is doing the haka, the war dance. Take all their clothes off and paint themselves and pull faces to the public, to everybody who's watching.
But it's highly symbolic and something that generates a lot of pride among many New Zealanders.
Oh, does it?
You only need to look at the response to the Rugby World Cup and the opening ceremony and things that got praise from around the world, including from Kiwis living overseas. You surely can't argue with that.
Well, praise overseas for them performing for the camera, doing a haka and poking their tongues out and that.
The retired chartered accountant is poking his tongue out at the ACT party. They readily accepted his $125,000 donation during last year's elections. But they're keeping their heads down now after he claimed Maori were full of crime and welfare.
52% of the people in jail are Maori, and they're only 15% of the population.
Well, don't you need to look at the causes behind that? Crimp says ACT won't get a cent more unless they back him up. Firstly, by scrapping funding the Maori language. What would you require the ACT party to say publicly in order to get more money from you?
Well, they haven't got it in power in Parliament now, but cancel the Maori language business. Let the Maori, if they want a special language that nobody understands anywhere out of New Zealand, they should pay for it themselves with all the billions of dollars they've got out of us taxpayers. They could pay for a cranky scheme like this with their own money.
It's an official language of New Zealand, so
yes.
Why?
Who on earth brought that about? What government in power at the time did that stupid thing?
But it was the first language that was spoken in New Zealand, so why would you object?
The cost of promoting it, the $500 million a year, that's why I object to it.
The original inhabitants weren't the British.
Oh, there were a few blooming savages around.
And is that how you see people now, as savages?
Well,
ACT's sole MP, John Banks, didn't want to discuss any of this with us today, in any language. Do you understand why some people find this extremely offensive?
Oh yeah, well, according to Twitter and Facebook and all those sort of things, I've had death threats, you know, and the most foul language, you know, C's and F's and B's and da-da-da-da. And I've been threatened, but I think when I go back to Invercargill I'll see the police and get a gun, so if anybody tries to do nasty things to me I'll shoot them, in self-defence of course.
Perhaps not surprisingly, the Race Relations Commissioner Joris de Brez considers Crimp's comments appalling and repugnant. Says
Who the hell's he? Where does he come from with that strange name?
But if it's strange you're looking for, Crimp's not immune. Or perhaps he just likes to shock. He certainly shocked me.
6 against the tree.
I don't think I want to answer that question.
We're not on tape, are we?
Yes, you heard right. He asked me if I had had sex against a tree. I presume he didn't mean a native tree, something English, like an oak.
Oh,
You need to do that again, make the faces at the camera. So do you regret any of what you've said? Anything at all?
No.
You don't regret offending and upsetting people?
truth hurts.
Louis Crimp, who stated that the promotion of Māori language receives $500 million a year. We simply have absolutely no idea where he gets that figure from. He was talking to 3 News reporter Jane Luscombe.